All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Steel City Insider listeners. Welcome to episode number 69. And Jim, do you remember Gabe Rivera? He was drafted over a quarterback that was pretty special in the annals of the NFL.
Annals is a funny word. Wasn't Rivera number 69?
He was number 69.
And ironically, this is episode 69, right?
Wow. I mean, the serendipity is
serendipity.
palpable.
It's magic.
It is. It is episode number 69 of the Steel City Insider podcast. We want to thank everybody for all the views, likes, comments. We appreciate all of you so much. Today, we are going to talk about Steelers OTAs as they are rolling along. But before we get into that, we do want to take a moment to recognize and honor and celebrate the life of Stan Savran, Pittsburgh media figure, great individual. Jim, thoughts on the passing of Stan Savran?
Well, my thoughts, first of all, are that, of course, he was a great guy. I've said that while he was alive. I've said it here. I've written it several times. I've told him on the radio. I've told him personally. He knows my feelings. Utmost respect. But what's really overwhelmed me today is the outpouring. Everybody in the media, and this is a nasty little petty little catty media town, right? Everyone loves Stan. Stan never engaged in any of that pettiness. He always wanted to talk sports. And I try to steer the conversation a little bit. He was a political animal too, so we had fun talking about politics. But I remember seeing him last year at training camp, thinking he looked really bad. And I started getting ready for this then. Then he repeatedly would not be kept down. He came to all the games. And man, he not like he sought me out, but anytime he'd come sit and have a meal with me before the game, with me all the time. Hey, Wex, that's how he said it. I kind of have the imitation down. Hey, Wex, sit down, and hey, Stan, how the Indians doing? Oh, but I felt honored that someone of his status kind of, I don't want to say he sought me out. You know what? Here's what it is, I think. I felt like he sought me out, like he considered me special. And I think that's what everybody's going through today. Mm-hmm. I think that's what the outpouring is all about. He made everyone feel that way.
Yeah.
Like he was seeking you out, that there was no factions of level of employment, status, the elites of the media world. I mean, he was in the elites. He was part of the elites. He was the anchor. He was the number 3 hitter.
Yeah.
But man, it wasn't like he had to sit with the elites all the time, like some of the elites do, a lot of the elites do. They won't be bothered. And man, he was just a cool dude. And the way I'd look at him, I remember at training camp, he looked so bad. I'm like, Stan, what's going on? Oh, Wex, they tried this new thing, and it's going to work. I know I don't feel good, but my numbers are up, and this is going to happen, and this is going to happen. Really, it's all going well. And he was always like that, as he deteriorated in front of your eyes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot to love about Stan.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say. This is the first I've said anything about him. Everybody else has been talking. I didn't want to write anything. I didn't know what to write. And so I was waiting for this podcast. I'm glad you asked.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to seem like I felt closer to him than most. I felt really close to him. But again, I think that's how he made you feel.
Yeah. Heavy hearts in Pittsburgh for the Savran family. And we offer our love, thoughts, and prayers to everyone. Very, very, very sad news. So shifting gears a bit, let's move into OTAs, the Steelers organized team activities roll along here. And really, you can't talk about Steelers OTAs. We can't have a podcast episode without talking about Kenny Pickett, his growth. It's what everybody's really, I don't want to say most excited about, because there's a lot to be excited about with this team. But players are talking about his growth, his development, his maturity. And I know that you spoke to a few players this week about Pickett. What are you hearing?
Well, I mean, what I wrote, his leadership is through the roof. He's constantly texting these guys, constantly motivating them before practice, saying, win every rep is his motto. He's got everybody believing in me. So beginning of his second year, and he's got everybody behind. That said, I want to see more downfield passing. I want to see less scrambling. I'm not telling you what I saw, right? So I'll leave it at that. I don't know where to go with critiquing a quarterback in shorts in his second year when his receivers have been out. DJ's back in minicamp. Pickens showed up, and Pickens was sidelined. So it made sense now that he missed OTAs, potentially an injury. I don't know, but he was on the sideline, didn't play. So not sure what the deal is there. But it's not like he was skipping OTAs. And I thought, that's a second-year guy. He shouldn't be doing this.
Right.
And now it looks like there's some kind of minor injury. And, he's hooking up with all the guys like Allen Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
Allen Robinson was really excited talking about working with Kenny, because last year Allen Robinson went to the Rams and Stafford missed OTAs in the beginning of the summer and early in camp. And Allen Robinson didn't get all of that. He got off to a slow start with the Rams. And then he and Stafford picked up after late in the season. And then Robinson got hurt, and that was the season. So he's getting this season off to a great start with his quarterback. Allen Robinson's one of those brainy types that wants to be in the right spot at the right time. And that's why I think he'll make a good slot guy. That's why I think he's Jericho Cotchery.
Yeah. Who was a player?
Yeah, a good slot player, a good safety valve, like a tight end where if the quarterback doesn't see his receivers, he knows where his slot guy is. He knows where his tight end is. Those are the guys you get it to, and they move the sticks. Mm-hmm. And Allen Robinson thinks it's very important that he spends as much time with Kenny as he can, and he's ecstatic. Mm-hmm. Allen Robinson was a joy to talk to the other day. So they're all excited about that. I don't know if it's the immense pass rush the Steelers have, but I want to see more pocket ball. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's not like it. Hey, I didn't see anything. Mm-hmm. Okay, I stood on the sideline and kibitzed and gossiped and acted like I wasn't there. So that's all I want to say about. That'll be something to watch for training camp. Okay, all right. As camp goes on, that's when we'll be more critical of what the offense is actually doing.
Right.
Right now, you're just looking for attitude, what the coaches intend. Like the first day, Dan Moore was still at left tackle. Simo was at left guard, mm-hmm. and everything else was intact. You wanted to see that. You wanted to see what they were doing inside linebackers. You wanted to see what they're doing in their secondary. So that's what I like of the spring. And then go to talk to the ball players. Some of them are putting in the work, and you can see it. Some of them are getting better as athletes. That's the part of spring ball that I like. So I don't want to get too much into criticizing the offense.
Gotcha.
There's plenty of time to do that.
Okay. All right. Well, I know it's difficult to glean anything, but you were mentioning Allen Robinson. We were talking before we got on here. I was going to want to talk about the receivers. I know we spent some time the last couple episodes talking about Calvin Austin, and he said Pickens returned. But have you seen anything from this receiver group that stands out from last year, or is it really difficult to tell because it is football in shorts?
All I can say is DJ looked good today. That's all I can say. I mean, I might even get in trouble for saying that. But what's the rest of them? Pickens, and I told you he's hurt. Allen Robinson. Freiermuth's, he's sidelined.
Yeah.
So I don't know where to go.
Not much. Well, I did read this. So you did, and you must have confirmed this, which you actually did through the interview. But one player we haven't talked about much this year, second-year guy, brother of Cam, Steelers legend Connor Heyward, but he had a heck of a catch.
He did, but I tell you, today he really impressed me. That's the one guy that stood out today to me, just as an athlete. So I think I'm allowed to say that. And that's the guy who impressed me. Really not much more I can say. But he's, I don't know if you guys all know what kind of bodies these people have. You could see them in their uniforms. But he wasn't impressive as a specimen, with his shirt off.
Yeah.
So I think that's changing. Not that I've seen him with his shirt off. I haven't gone looking for it. But he just looks – everybody liked him last year. Tomlin even we're walking down the hall with Cam and said, brother can play. He's a player. Mm-hmm. Cam wasn't sure. Cam, you never know until the coach says something like that.
Yeah. So
Cam was very proud of that. And then Connor had a great last game. Well, he is picked up from that spot and adding to it. He's very, very interesting because he's such a unique. What position does he play?
Yeah.
I mean, he's a little fullback, little H-back. He's not even an H-back. He doesn't even have an H-back body. Does really have a fullback, but he's also an emergency tailback, inline tight end, slot tight end, he's a niche player. And if he keeps making plays, he's going to carve out his own personal role in the history of this game, I think. Because he has no position, he's going to invent something.
Yeah, he's a hybrid. And to think of him, I was really excited with some of the plays he made last year. I think of that touchdown catch. I can't remember what game it was, but it was a beautiful throw by Pickett, but an even better catch by Heyward. But just thinking of him combined with Freiermuth, I can't pronounce his damn name, and Darnell Washington, they could do some pretty unique things with their packages.
Let me say this about Darnell Washington.
Uh-oh.
I mean, we see him on the sleds. We've seen the videos on Twitter. He can tear it up. Great blocker. There might be a reason Georgia didn't make him a pass receiving tight end. I'm not saying I don't take this the wrong way, but I'm just kind of tempering the enthusiasm for him everywhere, in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
I mean, there's a reason he went in the late third round, in spite of his size. Yeah. I don't think he has bad hands, but I'm not seeing the things he should be doing at 6'8" with that kind of athletic ability. I want more. Mm-hmm. I want more from him. And I have that feeling. I'm watching him. I'm like, Georgia probably wanted more from him too. Yeah. Made the other guy the pass catching tight end. Mm-hmm. So it could be a slower process than everybody thinks.
Got it.
And, all the enthusiasm, all the reporters come to him all the time. They're treating him like he's Gronkowski. And he really hasn't deserved that. And be interesting to see whether his maturity level, whether he's ready for all that adulation without really having done anything. So I would just temper a little bit with Darnell Washington.
Okay.
But very excited about Connor Heyward.
I am as well. Shifting gears a bit, Jim, I know that the defensive coaches made themselves available to the media today. Did you get a chance to talk with any of them?
Yeah, I did. I want to start with Aaron Curry. He's the new inside linebackers coach. I asked him if he was hired to bring the Legion of Boom attitude here. Because, these 6'4" corners, how do you not think of Richard Sherman and Brandon Browner? I know Browner was a safety, wasn't he? But still, he was 6'4", 6'5".
Yeah.
They know what they're doing with those tall DBs. And so now they bring in Aaron Curry. And so he goes, no, I was not hired for that. I'm just joking, Aaron. He goes, I think I was hired to bring physicality and toughness back to a team that has prided itself on physicality and toughness.
Mm-hmm.
So I had some fun talking to him. Cole Holcomb, he calls him extremely smart, loves Mark Robinson's athleticism, but it sounds like Robinson's still number 3. Mm-hmm. He's getting a lot of playing time because Cole Holcomb's been sidelined, still rehabbing last year's injury. So he was the guy I wanted to talk to first, mm-hmm. but he wouldn't play along with me on the Legion of Boom stuff.
Okay. And with that revamped secondary, did you get a chance to talk to Grady Brown?
Grady Brown, I don't know if you remember last year when he told me he was a proponent of the law of attraction. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
You know what the law of attraction is?
The secret.
Okay. Yeah. So he had said that last year, and I believe it. And how else would I get such a fantastic podcast without having manifested it, right?
Hey, I don't know.
So I said, Grady, you're a proponent of the law of attraction. He goes, law of attraction? I believe in it. Why? Why do you ask? I hit not a nerve, but an interest with him after all. He had all the questions. And I said, okay, well, how did you manifest an entire new secondary this offseason? And he smiled. He says, well, let me tell you, I had, they asked me before the draft, which corners do you like? I said, Joey Porter and Corey Trice. I got them. When Minka was coming out of high school, I recruited him. He went to South Carolina. He didn't go to South Carolina. He went to Alabama, and I watched with envy the entire time. I always wanted him. Now I got him. And he said, who's the other guy? There's another guy. Oh, Pat Peterson. Mm-hmm. And I'll have to look this up before I write my story. But he said, I'm sorry, I have these Ricolas in my mouth. I got a cough. I don't know where it came from. But anyway, he said, and you guys know me and Patrick Peterson go way back. And I didn't know, but apparently it's a thing. Mm-hmm. He goes, I'll just leave you with that. So these are all pieces that he wanted, and he got them.
Yeah. He's
not going to take credit for manifesting it, but I'm telling you, this dude might be something special.
He might be. And coincidentally, I have a shirt on that says, thank God for Minka Fitzpatrick. So maybe it should say, thank Grady. For woo.
Well, Troy Polamalu was a meditator and a deep in prayer all the time. And things just happened for him.
Yeah.
He went to Pitt. He went to USC. Paul Hackett recruited him. Hackett gets fired. In comes the best DB coach in the country, Pete Carroll. Mm-hmm. Gives him a Rovers position. Then he goes to the Steelers, a disastrous rookie year. Tim Lewis is the defensive coordinator. He's got a year left on his contract. There was nobody going to fire him except Tim Lewis thought he was going to get fired. He was telling people, I'm going to get fired. And Cowher got wind of it. Cowher called him in the office and says, have you been telling people you're going to get fired? He goes, yeah, you are going to fire me, aren't you? And Cowher said, I am now. He kind of wished it upon himself. And guess who came in? Dick
LeBeau.
Who would Troy manifest?
Dick
LeBeau.
Yeah.
Great Dick LeBeau. So
it's the manifestation episode.
You never know. You never know who's behind all this stuff. So Grady Brown, keep your eye on him for assistant coach of the year.
I'll tell you what, this has been a really interesting episode. Just everything we've covered here. I don't know if I've experienced one like this before. This is
well, I don't know that it's that woo-woo. I try not to get too far into the cosmos, but I thought it was interesting because he loved Corey Trice.
Yeah.
I said, was it painful? If you said he's the other corner you wanted, was it painful to wait 7 rounds? He goes, man, that's not. I don't get paid to think about that stuff. They asked me my opinion, I gave it, and then I got it. Yeah, and I'm happy, so I'm keeping my mouth shut.
Beautiful. Well, hey Jim, as we wrap up episode 69, You were checking out some great pieces of Steelers art this weekend, I hear.
Well, I don't know about pieces, but there was some art. For one thing, at the Pittsburgh Arts Festival, they did a play. One of the Pittsburgh Cultural Trust. I wish I knew better. I have the program somewhere. Put on a play about Mike Webster. It was tough. It was brutal. It was 2 hours long. It was long. And it opened with him behind a screen. You could just see the outline of him lying on a hospital gurney or something, whatever they call it. And the doctor pulling the sheet over his head and saying, 50 years old. And it got worse. I'm not saying the art was worse. The art was fantastic. But it was grim. It was tough. The life didn't get better. I mean, it opens with his death and the play gets worse because then it goes through his life. And there really weren't many moments of glory in this play. They didn't really delve into the 4 Super Bowls, but it was very interesting. I mean, it's one of those things, when you're dealing with art, when you're thinking about it 2-3 days later.
Yeah.
And you can't help but think of what, the head goes through with these football players.
Wow.
I mean, look at you. You were a football player, right?
Yeah.
You're looking a little confused right now, aren't you?
Sad excuse for one. I did have several concussions, which there are moments now where I'll be doing something and I'll just start staring. And I'm like, oh, wait. CT.
Well, that's what I was getting at, because you were doing that to me just now.
I was just enthralled by your recounting of this wonderful play.
Well, it was really well done. Don't get me wrong, but it was grim.
Yeah.
It was tough. I wouldn't go see it again.
Yeah.
And I would only recommend it to people, and I would tell them, you're in for a grim 2 hours. And it's every bit of 2 hours.
Oh, man.
They say 90 minutes with a 50-minute break. It was 2 hours and 10 minutes. And
wow.
Anyway.
Wow.
The other piece of art was much more uplifting. The podcast with All Things Covered, Brian McFadden, Patrick Peterson, and Troy Polamalu. Troy was fantastic. And, of course, it's just so joyful to see him and B-Mac. And there were tears being shed. I tweeted that they ran the Valvano gamut. Laugh, cry, and think.
Yeah. All
of that. I mean, I laughed, and the tears came to my eyes because B-Mac and Troy and Patrick Peterson was taking it all in as a new Steeler. This is a guy who looks like he wishes he was with the Steelers his whole life.
Yeah.
And so that was uplifting. And just all 3 of them. And I felt grateful that I knew all 3 of them and that all 3 respected me. And so I saw Peterson today. I said, hey, great podcast with Troy. And he's like, thanks, man. Patrick Peterson's a really good dude. Very excited for this secondary.
Let's get him on the show.
Okay, well, they got their own podcast. They might not want to compete against themselves. B-Mac has come on. I'll get him on. I know you want a current player. You're tired of me bringing in these old Hall of Famers.
It would be nice to have Troy on here. If we could get Troy, that would be great. I don't know if you can pull some strings.
You're going to make me go for the top one. And then next week you'll want Lambert.
I get it. Do you remember the story? I forget who it was that told it, where he came into the huddle and he was smoking a cigarette and he put it out and said, all right, you clog up the line, I make the tackle. Is that true? Is that real? Like, did that really happen?
That Lambert went in the huddle smoking a cigarette?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how you do that. If it was a preseason game or something, maybe, or if it was practice, maybe. But I'm not going to refute it.
I don't know if you can get any more badass than that.
Well, they smoked at halftime. Lenny Dawson has a famous picture of halftime of the Super Bowl smoking a cigarette. But, the old story that they used to tell me about, Rocky Blyer told me this story about Jack used to have a Chobe party because they had a bunch of DBs from Lake Okeechobee, and they called them Chobies, Glenn Edwards and his boys. And Lambert didn't think they could drink. They were DBs. They were lightweights. So he would have them come over. They would call it a Chobe party. And they'd come over, and they especially get the rookies and the newbies in the defensive secondary to come over and just drink them under the table. And Rocky said Lambert would come in real early the next morning, sit in front of his locker with coffee and smoke cigarettes as one by one the Chobies came in with massive headaches. Jack just laughed and laughed and laughed.
Oh my man, we covered it all today. We covered it all. We got to wrap it up because I mean that puts a bow on it. That's perfect. What a way to end it with a story about Lambert. That's it. That's episode 69. Jim, we're episode 70 next week. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, it's 69 is like the number 13. Crazy things happen. We went through the list of guys who've worn 69. Who did we come up with? Who did we call?
Yeah. Oh, now you're testing my memory.
Gabe Rivera.
Rivera.
We had to go all the way back to Gabe Rivera. Now, Kevin Dotson wears 69 right now.
Kevin Dotson. Yeah.
But I mean, other than that, it's a hodgepodge of Ariel Solomons.
Hodgepodge of Ariel. Okay, we got to stop. There's too much Steelers gold coming out of this. We got to save some for episode 70. And with that, that is the conclusion of episode number 69. Thank you so much for being supporters of the podcast. You can check out Jim's work at the Steel City Insider and give him a follow on Twitter at Jim Wexell. And we will see you back here next week for episode number 70 of the Steel City Insider podcast. Jim, have a great week.
You too, Jeremy.